morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always, told out of Voice of Radio. So today we need to take a look at some new cards from Black Bolt and White Flare. And the good news is we do actually have two evolution lines here. One is from Black Bolt, one is from White Flare. So we are actually looking at Black Bolt and White Flare, whereas obviously sometimes recently we've been looking at only one, not the other, and that makes me sad, but not today, ladies and gentlemen. Not today. We got ourselves a Krookodile line, and we got ourselves a Cofagrigus line, and that was the more recently revealed, so I don't know. Why don't we start there? Sound like a plan? Excellent. So we do have a Yamask here, but it's not terribly interesting. What we got from Yamask here is 70 HP, and we got 2 energy, 20 damage, flip a coin. If heads, it does 20 more damage. Fair to say, not a particularly good attack, especially because it's an evolving basic that doesn't have a single energy attack. Boo! But we do have Cofagrigus here. Now, we got single psychic, 2 colours, 60 damage plus confusion. And I don't think this is particularly interesting. I don't want to be rude here, but if I'm putting free energy onto a stage 1 Pokemon, I want more than 60 damage and confusion. It's not making me happy. We can move on. Second attack, however, we can have a nice little chat about. Because what you do is you choose one of your bench Pokemon, and you move all the damage counters from that Pokemon to one of your opponent's Pokemon. Now, as always, we need to be very specific with the language here. You can move from your bench, not from your active. Now, Cofagrigus is probably not going to have that much damage on all that often anyway. If it's getting hit, it's probably getting KO'd most of the time. But it's worth noting you cannot move damage from Cofagrigus, even if you want to. However, you can move to any of your opponent's Pokemon. You just have to choose one of your opponent's Pokemon and move all the damage over, which is frankly not too shabby. And this is one of those Pokemon where it's not really doing much by itself. It's not really a self-sufficient Pokemon. But as it's going to help out your other dudes, this one we like very much indeed. Essentially, you play it with a high HP Pokemon, and when you're too scared of getting KO'd, not only do you get to heal it completely, and don't sleep on the healing here, the healing is brilliant, but you also get to potentially get a KO on one of your opponent's Pokemon. You know, if you've got something like Dragapult, for instance, 320 HP, no weakness, it's not going to get one hit KO'd all that much. The idea of completely healing your Dragapult while also KOing a bench Pokemon, not too shabby. Is Dragapult going to find room for this? Arguably not, although it does play Psychic Energy, so that is at least a little part of the battle done with. But the fact is, any deck that's playing Psychic Energy can use their big Pokemon, and then when your big Pokemon is about to get KO'd, you just get it out of the way, Cofagrigus comes in, and not only do you get to heal up, but you get to do a lot of damage as well. And then obviously we do have some ways to accelerate energy. We've got ourselves Xatu, but let's not bury the lead. Gardevoir. This just seems like another Pokemon. There's been a lot of these, but it seems like another Pokemon. You look at it and you're like, oh, Gardevoir. This is clearly for Gardevoir. Because firstly, Psychic Energy, and Gardevoir accelerates Psychic Energy, so getting the damage on is not going to be an issue. And secondly, you've got the whole, Gardevoir damages. So what you can potentially do here is just get a whole bunch of damage onto one of your Pokemon, and then top it up with Gardevoir if you need to, and then use Gardevoir to get the energy onto Cofagrigus, get Cofagrigus into the active, move the damage over, and again, it is to anyone. It's a very similar kind of thing to what we see in Gardevoir already with Cresselia. Because Cresselia, of course, can move 2 damage counters from each of your Pokemon to your opponents. So yeah, this is that, but it's from one Pokemon, which I think is a little bit better. Also, remember, Cresselia did rotate out, so it's kind of like a successor. It's a stage 1, not a basic, But I like being able to move all the damage from one of your Pokemon. Gardevoir's got 310 HP. That's not the easiest thing to KO over, and I'm just saying, this one could be fun. Let's go ahead and give this one a tentative 4 Wussies. I really like this. I think there is a lot of potential here. And I think when you got it fitting very nicely into Gardevoir, which plays Psychic Energy, accelerates Psychic Energy, and can manipulate damage on your side of the board. That's the other thing. Your opponent does like 200 damage and goes, ha 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 ha, I'm massively out of range. You're just like, I'll put more damage on using my Gardevoir by accelerating energy until I'm not out of range anymore, and then we go ahead. So that's kind of fun. But how about we have a chat about Krookodile? And Krookodile is a very cool Gen 5 Pokemon. Is this one going to be a fun one to have a little bit of a play with? Well, what we've got here is a big stage 2, and it is a big stage 2. And because it's a big stage 2, we got a decent amount of HP here. We are rocking along with 170 HP. That's pretty cool. And we got 2 energy, 60 damage. Your opponent discards 2 cards from their hand. Okay. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. Now, the damage here I'm not loving, but the thing is, we've got cards that we can combine with this to make it, like, way better. Obviously, obvious one to start off with is Yamask Machinations. That makes your opponent discard cards from their hand until they've only got 3 cards in their hand. And then this comes around and makes your opponent discard 2 cards from their hand. Now, very important to note, it is your opponent who does the choosing to discard here, just like we see with Yamask Machinations. So if your opponent's got like a 7-card hand, you play Yamask Machinations, you use this, your opponent goes down to 1 card in hand. They have the choice as to which card they keep. So if they've got a way to refresh their hand, if they've got a good supporter card, whatever, that is actually going to be kind of annoying. I don't think it's the end of the world. However, it is annoying that they get the choice here. Just putting that one out there, that is a little bit annoying. But of course, Ino will work here quite nicely. Shuffle your opponent's hand into their deck. Now, if they've got 2 prize cards remaining, use Ino, put them down to a 2-card hand, and now all of a sudden they have 0 cards in hand. And sure, they get a choice of which cards to discard, but if they don't have any cards, they can't choose which one. Like, if they've only got 2 cards, the choice, in quotation fingers, is very much the only cards in your hand. Ha 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 ha. Got it. And then, of course, we can make a fun combination with that Gothitelle that I showed you the other day. Because that Gothitelle, when you pop it in the active, you can make your opponent shuffle the hand into their deck and draw a new 3-card hand. And then we've got Air Balloon, which has been reprinted, which will let you get out of the active. Also potentially useful for Cofagrigus. But the point I'm making here is that you put your opponent down to a 3-card hand with Gothitelle, and then immediately go and use Krookodile here, and they've got a 1-card hand. What is better about this is that essentially you're giving your opponent a shuffle draw free. There is a pretty decent chance they're not going to draw anything that good anyway. So when you're putting them down to a choice of 1 out of 3 cards that were given randomly, it is more likely that their hand is going to be wrecked, which is fun. Although that does involve having 2 different stage 2s. Not saying it won't work, saying it might be awkward. And that also leads us into the second attack here. Free energy 120, but if your opponent's got 3 or fewer cards in their hand, it does 240, which is a nice amount of damage. And again, you can guarantee this. Obviously, Yamask Machinations will still work, like I told you a minute ago. But Gothitelle makes your opponent shuffle draw free, at which point they've got 3 or fewer cards in their hand. So you come forward with this and you're just like, hey. And then you make them take 2 cards out. And that's bad for them. And I'm not loving the double stage 2 because this is with Gothitelle. Like, the best use of this card is combining it with Gothitelle for both of the attacks here. But then you're rocking double stage 2. If you can pull it off, genuinely brilliant. I just have my reservations. Outside of Gothitelle, let's still not sleep on it. It's still a very useful card. It's still one that can wreck your opponent's hand, and I've given you combos other than Gothitelle in this video. And it can still do decent damage. I'm not loving the attack cost. I'm not loving the amount of damage you're doing. But I am loving wrecking my opponent's hand. So you add that all together. And let's give it between 3 and 4 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies. That would be barbaric. I'm not sure Krookodile's a game-changing card. But I do think once you combine it with Gothitelle, there's a lot of fun that could be had here. And actually, before we finish, I should mention the pre-evolutions quickly. Krokorok, 2 energy, 40 damage, and your opponent discards 2 cards from their hand. If you can't get your stage 2 rolling, but you are going full hand disruption, this could work. And Sandile, single energy, 10 damage, your opponent discards a card from their hand. Less good again, but still, you could make this work. If you're really going after the hand and you cannot get your Krookodile, this could still work. And as for Cofagrigus, if you're playing Psychic Energy, big Pokemon, and can manipulate a bit of damage, that one could be good. And we do have a deck that fits into that quite nicely. So now I've told you what you need to know, and now it's over to you guys. Tell me what you think about these new cards. Tell me how hyped you are for Black Bolt and White Flare. Tell me everything you want to tell me in the comment section. Good us! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at The Wassi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord, and all kinds of fun things. And get shout-outs on the channel like the lovely Ray of Light, who's been a supporter of ours for a while now and is a very lovely person. So shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.